This fade from Paramount logo to actual mountain is f***ing sweet, and the logo is only like 8 seconds long. Someone saw the Brady Bunch Hawaiian 2-part special. When this guy runs away, do all the other people who were with them run away too? There are at least 5 people besides Indy in this group, but after this, it's just these 2 dudes, including Magnolia's Alfred Molina.
Poison is still fresh, 3 days. They're following us.
Why would the poison dart you just found indicate that they're following you? If anything, you're following them.
If they knew we were here, they would have killed us already.
I see. Coincidental poison dart, then? This is somewhere between southern Chile and northern Colombia. Hang a right at the gas station, you can't miss it. Completely illegible map is completely illegible. Also, I mean, god damn, that is 4 used McDonald's napkins, not a map. That shit is f***ing useless. This guy takes no caution in cocking his gun in the presence of Indy. Like, maybe cock the gun somewhere else so that it doesn't give you away. Where the f*** did these spiders come from? This was the shot we saw just before Spider-Man 2's Alfred Molina made him aware. Are they jumping down from the ceiling? And I guess more spiders jumped on species Alfred Molina because they know he's up to no good. You gotta watch spiders, man. Their nature's bad guy detectors. Know that I have nothing but love for this movie. It's an all-timer. But how does an ancient people rig up a motion sensor booby trap like this? And did the booby trap reset itself after Indy's rival got killed? How does the whip tie itself around this log when sturdy enough to support a man's weight? When we see it from the other side, it's somehow gotten around the log 3 times. That's from one flick of the wrist. One of the things that makes this movie awesome is how little dialogue or explanation this opening scene gives you. It's largely just watching the action of them solving a riddle. If it were made today, the entire first segment would be full of stupid one-liners back and forth, most of it being about cultural misunderstandings. That dart could so easily have just hit him if he hadn't been holding the thing in the perfect spot. He had no idea what might happen, or that it would be a dart, or that the dart would hit the wooden dongle instead of his eyeball. Honestly, if avoiding these brown vagina tiles is all it takes to not trigger the booby trap, then this all seems pretty easy. He releases sand from the counterweight by eyeballing the weight of the idol, which is just beyond ballsy. Now I wonder how long it took to build this glorified storage unit and how they tested it out. This tribe built a whole temple where you had to avoid a solar booby trap, play pitfall, avoid poisonous darts, and then finally, if you get to the idol, you set off an alarm that causes the whole thing to self-destruct and unleashes a boulder as a last gasp to trap you inside forever. All for this ugly thing. These idol worshippers thought of everything when it came to booby traps, but they did not factor in the speed of a man as he runs across the poison dart lobby. Ford says Sapito here when the name of the character is Satipo, and even the subtitles confirm it should have been Satipo. During this entire time, we see the boulder. It's moving at speeds that should trample Indy, but due to the magic of editing, Indy is always several steps ahead. So here is the wall of webs that Indy and Boogie Nights Alfred Molina encountered earlier. As you can see, the exit from the cave is pretty far away in this shot, but here it's just a couple of steps and a dive away. How good is Indy? He's about to outrace a group of this jungle's natives. That's really good.
Jock! Start the engine!
Indy tells Jock to start the engines, and we see Jock look up and notice Indy running from all the natives. But then we see Indy running towards a thick area of jungle with no water in sight. Then we see him grabbing a vine to swing into the water, surrounded by more thick jungle. How the f*** did Jock see him or even hear him? Indy runs into the woods, and the trailing native guy fires an arrow 100 feet above Indy into the trees. All these blowers, and no one was able to land a climax. I mean a kill shot. Oh, and the archers are terrible too.
There's a big snake in the plane, Jock!
Indy is instantly tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. Oh my, that's bad for your eyes. Don't draw on your eyelids, kids, or put lotion on them or anything like that. Most of what you put on the eyelid will leak into the eye. Also, writing love notes on your eyelids. Also, Christ, who drew that on there? And how did she not wig out when it was happening? Imagine someone writing with an ink pen on your closed eyelid and then explain how she did this. Even if it's mascara and she applied it herself looking into the mirror, it's a minor miracle it came out right. The director said, let's have your character give Dr. Jones an apple after class. It'll make you look like even more of an asshole.
I had it, Marcus. I had it in my hand.
Wait, did he just get back from South America and only had time to go straight to class when he got back? Why hasn't he told Marcus about the idol yet? Our discussion about the Ark and Hitler is top secret, so let's find the biggest classroom we can find and leave a few open doors to talk about it.
The city of Tanis was consumed by the desert in a sandstorm which lasted a whole year.
That was very DeRue to that sandstorm.
Now, what's that supposed to be coming out of there?
Lightning, fire, power of God or something.
Gotta say, this power of God that comes out of the Ark definitely raises the stakes of this adventure. You can't really have a movie without it, but you've got to wonder why the stone tablets of the original 10 Commandments are guarded with this kind of power. These are very important documents that explain God's will, but no one can ever see them. You can copy the commandments down for your own notes, but the originals are very important for some reason, and God will kill you if you look at them. Gun, whip, leather jacket, he's all packed. Let's go to the airport. Let's go right now. The propeller is spinning, and there are 2 flight attendants under the wing. This is a nice image, but what kind of light source is even making this possible? This is apparently coming from the fireplace, but the light wouldn't be this even, and there are so many other lights on, it would make shadow work like this impossible.
I never meant to hurt you.
I was a child. I was in love. He was wrong and you knew it!
This needs a lot more explaining than it gets. Did he do that on purpose? We give modern movies a lot of for how hard it is to keep up with the action, but this classic Steven Spielberg movie is guilty of it too. A lot of close-ups of random people shooting somewhere off screen and no idea where everyone is.
Whiskey?
Jesus, just how long is the bar that Indy can request a bottle of whiskey and get it in time to smash this dude over the head to avoid the fire?
They have not one brain among them. Except one. We call him Balosh. Belloc.
Amazing how Belloc went from stealing the idol from Indy straight to helping the Germans finding the Ark in like a week. How is it that out of all the archaeological finds in the world, Indy keeps running into Belloc over and over? This might be a good time to search for the Holy Grail since Belloc's busy. Oh, of course the monkey's evil? How do you train a monkey to keep tabs on strangers? Shoplifting. Here comes a what the f*** edit in the movie. Marion runs through this archway and the guy with the knife is hot on her heels. It appears that she's going into a building, right? But when the scene cuts, she's still outside and runs into another doorway where she knocks dude out with a fry pan. I don't want to play the music here, but the Jones and Marion theme is very similar to the Han and Leia theme, and they even start with the same 3 notes.
I ought to kill you right now.
Not a very private place for a murder?
Of course, you've already gotten away with at least 3 in the last 5 minutes, so what's one more?
I am a shadowy reflection of you.
You and I are not so different, cliché.
Uncle Indy, come back home now!
I've never understood these sudden children who save Indiana from this situation. We find out later that his buddy Gimli was looking for him, but it's not like he knew Indy was in trouble. And even if he did, why would he send these kids in to protect him when the whole place could erupt in gunfire at any second?
And take back one Kadam to honor the Hebrew god whose ark this is.
It's pretty incredible that this medallion tells people to get a staff that's 6 feet tall, but on the reverse side, it's like, but you better take a foot off, you know, to honor God or something. I didn't know God had penis envy. Anyway, it's temporarily inconvenient for the villains who only had one side to work with.
Bad dates.
Dr. Jones' fate abates once the primate playmate ate a not great date.
What time does the sun hit the map room?
About 9 in the morning.
Okay, but surely this all has to happen on or near a specific day, right? The sun will hit the map room at a different time every day, and as the planet turns, the beam coming into the map room will change where it lands, right? Am I insane here? If you don't know what day or week to do this, then you could all end up digging in the wrong place. They had f***ing dudes with guns guarding the workers hauling dirt, but they have no armed guards on the map room? Belloc used a longer staff, and that's why the Germans are digging in the wrong place right now. But did they also not put their staff in the right hole? This hole is covered in sand, despite Belloc being here the previous morning. So the Nazis busted Sala, but didn't arrest him, let him wander away free to make a blanket rope, and didn't stay guarding their map room so he would be able to just waltz right back over there to free Indy.
Who was to switch baskets?
Yeah, but how? She was being carried by those 2 dudes the whole time. If she switched baskets, she must have been throwing her voice too, since she was yelling out of that basket the whole time. And that basket clearly went into the back of that truck that exploded. Also, if she switched baskets, why was she still captured? Is this supposed to be how Belloc had a copy of the medallion? His burned hand only has a few of the markings at the top, while the real one has markings going all the way around it. How did they even get enough of the translation to even begin searching in the wrong place? Somehow, entirely off screen, Jones reconnected with Sala and recruited a bunch of the local workers to stop what they were doing and come help him dig. And none of the bad guys who are everywhere all over this camp saw this unsolicited digging or ever stopped to ask questions. Also, it's at this point I feel like Indy doesn't think things through. The bad guys can't find the Ark because they don't have the right coordinates and never will. Technically, he could save Marion, leave, and find the Ark later. This is where you have to start a disinformation campaign so that the Nazis will look the other way or give up for a while because this is just too risky. I don't know what causes this little shift in the image in the background, but whatever it is, it makes everything look fake as shit. As they clear off the stone tablet they found digging, I wonder if Indy ever stopped to think he was allowed to come here and find the Ark by the very bad guys he thinks he's racing against. Oh, look at the never-ending snake brigade down in this room that's been sealed for 1,000 years. There must be so much food and oxygen down here. It's only natural that snakes are crawling all over each other to get their share of the plentiful resources that must be down here. I think Marion is a badass, but for the most part, she's just a damsel in distress. Also, how was the dress he gave her exactly her size? Also, he just f***ing learned the Nazi guys were going to torture her, and now he's being nice to her in the hopes that she will share information before having to be tortured. So why did he have a dress lying around here at all? Let alone one that fit her every line and curve perfectly. Never set living snakes on fire. That's one of my life rules. Well, I won't be eating this anymore. Wait, you're not going to open it, are you? You're smart, aren't you? Oh, they are opening it because it's not the Ark, only the casing outside the Ark. But how did they know that? This lid has to be at least as heavy as that roof was that took several men to open with pry bars, but Sala and Indy are able to lift this heavy as thing by themselves using nothing other than their brute strength.
Americans, you're all the same. Always overdressing for the wrong occasions.
Wait, that's his burn? Americans are always overdressing for the wrong occasions? Is that even marginally true? We dress up for weddings, funerals, church, graduation, business meetings. Where are we going wrong, sir? Should we be wearing suits to WrestleMania? Or shorts to revival services? I love this scene. I love it. But there's no reason why this guy has a coat hanger like this. He gives his coat to this dude who's just gonna hold it anyway. It's not like he hangs it up anywhere. I don't mean to sin fun, but I just sinned fun. In the third movie, the Holy Grail turns out to be a commoner's cup, not a golden masterpiece. So why would the Ark of the Covenant be any different? Where'd they get all this f***ing gold anyway? Moses specifically condemned them for making a golden calf. Did they melt that down to make the Ark? Because if so, then they probably didn't learn the lesson Moses was teaching about the golden calf. Also, were the long wooden rods that fit perfectly in the holes already here? Or did Indy bring those too? Well, we never learned about it. Feels like they were here already. Why did the people who took such great pains to hide the Ark leave so many tools behind for stealing it?
You would use a bulldozer to find the China Cup.
In the end, what was the point of those scenes with Marion and Belloc and the weird Nazi guy? It doesn't drive the plot at all. We know Belloc wanted to get Marion drunk and have her spill the beans. And we know they used future melty glasses to question Marion about the medallion. We don't even see what he did when he questioned her. But in the end, none of that matters because Belloc just stumbles on Indy's dig in the morning. Technically, you could have lost that whole sequence and it wouldn't have mattered. I know that's sacrilege to say because there are some entertaining bits, but seriously, you could have cut that whole Marion tent sequence and the movie doesn't lose anything.
Take this. Wave it at anything that slithers.
This is a dangerous thing to say to a woman you have a sexual past with. Dude has a lit torch between his chin and his shoulder while he is rope climbing, and if the movie isn't going to act like that's cool, I at least will. I mean, it's impossible too, which is why I'm sending it, but it's still cool. That wall was sturdy as wasn't it? How was it even standing? Is this statue really that strong? Jump-scaring skeleton can lick my armpit. Oh, good. They're everywhere. This is fun. And Jesus, somehow one solitary snake was camping out in this spot where there aren't millions of snakes. No one disturbs him in his kingdom of the actual skull. They were buried deep in the well of souls, but sure, when Indy finds an exit, all they have to do is climb up like 10 feet. Also, luckily, there appears to be a bunch of stones that form steps to this opening up here, which is weird, since nothing else in this area seems to be missing anything. I guess these were spare stones the Egyptians had left over when they built this place. Hey, it's time for a classic film flub. Today's classic film flub. The stone Indy pushes out is definitely not a heavy stone. You can see the shadow bounce to confirm it. It's really fun stuff. Cannibalism. After knocking out the pilot, Marion climbs into the cockpit, and all I have to say is, why? Also, she gets trapped in there and has to be saved, when all she had to do after knocking out the pilot was jump down and run away. These heroes are closer without being seen than the hobbits were when they slid down the rocks outside the entrance to Mordor. Half these f***ing people behind them should be pointing and shouting about the white people barely hiding behind a dirt mound. He's sure to catch that car on horseback. Good God, man, there's no excuse for missing. You not only have a clear shot, you also have a machine gun. I'm no Egypt expert, but it seems weird that this action scene started in a jungle, momentarily crossed into a mountainous region for a convenient car crash, and now it's back in the jungle again. Then Indy tries to kick this guy off the truck and he nearly falls off a cliff. But when his buddy turns to find him, it looks like completely different terrain. Let's give a round of applause to goddamn stunt people. This stunt is in itself Spielberg's tribute to stunt people. Jesus, this rules. That said, both his front and back should be riddled with cuts, bumps, bruises, and other signs of having been dragged across a desert road. Everyone is happy and singing and dancing. The hero has his arm around the girl, and there's no way this is done. How can the characters in the movie be so dumb? Did Marion not get another change of clothing after all that bullshit? She's still in Belloc's dress, and it's ripped and muddy, and I think I'm in love, but damn, you'd think she would have found some new clothes by now. Falling asleep during a Karen Allen seduction. Is the Ark burning this Nazi crate? If so, why did it take so long? And why doesn't it finish the job? And why is it burning when the Ark itself hasn't even been opened yet? Is this really happening? Is he really climbing out of a steam pipe like a goddamn cartoon?
We are not in the position to ask for anything. We will take what we wish.
I'm pretty sure this guy is just being a Nazi asshole. Not-soul? But earlier, this guy wanted to throw Marion down into the Well of Souls for absolutely no reason. My guess is the script dictates his every move, which is going to get him in hot water with Hitler. Steven Spielberg's Das Boot. I love this scene where Indy punches this dude and takes his uniform, but it really makes me wonder how nobody sees this. I mean, the people patrolling this walkway would have seen not only the first guy get beat up, but also the second guy. Not to mention Indy trying on new clothes and Even when doing field work, you still need pole-holding jingoists.
Your persistence surprises even me.
Holy did he just swallow that fly? For some reason, they kept Jones and Marion alive and tied them up to watch the show. There's zero reason for them to do this unless they know we are all watching, needing resolution.
Marion,
Don't look at it.
The don't look at it idea comes out of the sheer blue. I guess this comes from years of study, and it's an educated guess, but this hasn't even been hinted at until now. This arc is no longer a viable weapon if people can just shut their eyes and avoid the consequences. Word on the battlefield would get around pretty quick about this weakness. Also, I sort of wish that the Archangel that's about to come out and kill a bunch of Nazis was actually doing it because they were Nazis, and because Belloc is clearly evil. You'd think an angel would know who's good or bad and kill accordingly. Nightmare fuel! Are the Nazis being sent to heaven? Here? Maybe they're just going in for processing. Peter will ask them the usual round of questions. They'll fail, obviously, but kind of a weird scene watching this Nazi mist go into the clouds here. Oh, hey, look, the flames cut the rope without killing us. Sweet. Okay, how do we get off this island? Marion, do you know how to drive a submarine? Never mind. I'll read the manual. It'll be in German, but I think I can get the gist of it.
Well, the money's fine. The situation is totally unacceptable.
Indiana Jones now knows there's proof of God. I mean, he won't be able to make anyone believe him, but it's a bit surprising it doesn't change his life in a meaningful way.
Well, I know what I've got here.
So think, this romance is going to produce a kid named Mutt. I've always loved the mystery of this warehouse. Thousands of crates that all contain something the government doesn't want you to see. The Ark is just one of many. One of the best ending shots in a movie ever. After watching Raiders of the Lost Ark and you move on to this movie, you are right to ask, what the f*** is this shit?
Anything goes.
Yep, this movie is basically telling us to expect some absolutely deranged and evil shit that will, in just a month after this movie and Gremlins come out, lead to a new PG-13 rating. That's right, this movie where a dude pulls out another dude's heart was PG! We gave zero f***s back in the 80s.
This is Indiana Jones, famous archaeologist.
At this point, what would Indiana Jones be famous for? Since this is a prequel, he hasn't done anything with the Ark of the Covenant yet, and apparently every time he makes a huge discovery, some asshole steals it from him.
I suggest you give me what you owe me, or anything goes.
Incorporating the opening musical number into your threats.
Welcome home, old boy.
Why is Indy drinking anything passed to him by guys who tried to steal Narhachi's ashes from him just last night, and who pulled a gun on him seconds ago, and who tried to pay him with coins instead of the diamond?
The coins, it works fast, Dr. Jones.
It does not.
You keep it go. I find another.
If Lau had this little concern for Willie, then why did Lau give Indiana what he wanted when Indy was threatening her with the roast fork earlier?
That's not a waiter.
I swear this character's single trait is that she is the equivalent of the guy at every goddamn theater screening I go to audibly explaining what's happening on screen, just in case any of us in the audience weren't understanding the obvious. Also known as the holy shit, that's what Steve said to Sam in Captain America Civil War guy. In order for a person to fire a gun in this situation and get away with it, you'd have to know that multiple champagne bottles are getting uncorked and time one of them perfectly. Wuhan doesn't feel a shot to his f***ing chest until he inspects the broken glass. Also, even though blood starts seeping through the shirt, neither it nor the jacket have a bullet hole in them.
I followed you on many adventures.
I mean, so many adventures that I'm not in any other Indiana Jones movies or TV shows. I show up in a couple books and a video game, but yeah, anyway, so many adventures. For someone dying of a fast-acting poison, Indy still has the strength to throw a flaming shish kebab so hard that it penetrates a man's chest and kills him. Now we get to enjoy over 2 minutes of Willie chasing the diamond and Indy chasing the antidote while being attacked by random henchmen. And by enjoy, I mean wonder how this is only a 2-minute sequence, but feels like it goes on for all the some time. Geez, did the poison f*** Indy's brain up so much he needed to punch the cigarette lady? He's the good guy, right? Here, let's put Indiana into this cart and push him into the van. He'll think twice before he crosses the likes of us. These throwing knives plunge into a f***ing statue instead of bouncing off of it, and they should have f***ing bounced. That diamond doesn't look a damn thing like ice. Quit acting like this has turned into a needle in a haystack scenario. Indiana Jones in the Temple of Balloons. Why does every single bullet this guy shoots go underneath? Oh, wait, I forgot George Lucas produced this. Also, Indy doesn't have any weapons. There's no reason why this guy can't run up and get a better shot. This nonsense is especially egregious when Indy runs behind the gong. Ah, I see. They were at Club Obi-Wan the whole time. That name probably means a lot to people living in 1935 Shanghai. For others, they just weren't cool enough to get the reference.
Wow, holy smoke!
Jesus Christ. Is this guy everything, everywhere, all at once? Short Round somehow knew to drive the car up to this exact location at this exact time.
Okie dokie, Dr. Jones, hold on to your potatoes!
Hold on to your potatoes.
I'm not that kind of girl!
Indiana is most definitely reaching down a woman's dress without her explicit consent, and there was nothing okay about that. But why didn't Willie already get him the antidote?
Hey, Dr. Jones, no time for love!
Kids.
I burnt my fingers and I cracked a nail!
Man, I sure am glad this character isn't going to be with us for the whole movie. Holy shit, she's gonna be with us for the whole movie? Also, female character getting horribly upset in a dangerous situation because she's cracked a nail cliche.
Ah, Dr. Jones, I'm Weber.
The way this scene is shot and edited, this Dan Aykroyd cameo doesn't contain any Dan Aykroyd. Also, assuming that the third person was going to be Wuhan and not Willie, how short of a notice did Art have to acquire this plane? Like, This would be part of the plan from the very beginning, right? Or is this movie saying Indy somehow called Art on his 1930 cell phone on the way here?
Heavens, aren't you Willie Scott, the famous American female vocalist?
No one would refer to someone as the famous American female vocalist. They would say Willie Scott, the singer, or just simply ask, aren't you Willie Scott? F***ing Art Weber.
Nice try, Lao Che!
So did Lao Che have these plane shenanigans set up? Because the way things go down, he would have had to. But if he was planning on poisoning Indy at the club, then why go through all the trouble of setting this up? He'd also have to have Art on his payroll for this to happen, since it was apparently the best he could find on short notice. So wait, were the pilots hoping that everyone would be asleep to carry out this plan? What if they weren't? And this also requires them to be able to walk past them without waking them up.
We're not sinking! We're crashing!
Look, Kate Capshaw does everything this movie requires of her, and this is not her fault. But seriously, Willie Scott is one of the most annoying characters ever put on film. I just have to assume that all the people who thought Indy surviving a nuclear explosion by placing himself in a refrigerator was ridiculous totally forgot about the inflatable raft parachute sequence from this installment. Ah, those 1984 special effects where the real image and the green screen image look like they're fighting and about to get a divorce. Also, this explosion. Wow, these guys landed on a mountain that's basically a goddamn ski resort. I'm not sure what the bigger sin is here. That they survive at all, or that all three of them somehow stay in the raft for the entire descent. Let's just give 2 sins and move on while a bit of my sanity is still intact.
I hate the water! And I hate being wet! And I hate you!
Would you have rather crashed into the mountain? This guy points them in the direction they need to go, and then when it transitions to the next scene, he's in front of them again, doing some super unnecessary motioning to the village he obviously led them to. I mean, did they start going in some other direction? And he was like, no, guys, not there, here, where the party's at.
There is new Maharaja, and again the palace has the power of the dark light.
Why does this guy think that Indiana can battle pure evil and take back a sacred stone stolen from his village? All Indy did was show up on a raft carrying a kid and an American singer. He didn't say, I'm Indiana Jones, conqueror of evil. Or is he so famous that his exploits have reached tiny rural villages in India? Steven Spielberg runs with a blatant and pretentious Jaws reference, so Michael Bay in Ambulance could fly with a blatant and pretentious The Rock reference, also known as the Circle of Ego.
Saying when the sacred stone was taken, the village wells dried up, and the river turned to sand.
If Indy knew how to speak their language, why was he speaking English to them when they were eating?
Then one night there was a fire in the fields.
Sure, it's more dramatic and cinematically pleasing for Indy to turn around and translate this horror story to the audience, but how f***ing rude is it that Indy turns his back on this guy while he tells it?
He says they stole their children.
Indiana Jones and the When a Stranger Calls.
Shankara.
Why the hell did Indy come all the way up here to look at the parchment? Does he need the best view possible to think about treasure hunting?
Little boy escaped from the evil palace. Many other children still there.
Why is Short Round relaying this information to Indy? Couldn't Indy have just waited long enough in the village to hear what the kid had to say about the other children? Seriously, why is he up here? Steven Spielberg is bringing out so many flourishes from his other films, I'm halfway expecting a killer truck to show up and harass Dennis Weaver. Watching Willie struggle with getting on top of the elephant without actually helping her get on top of the elephant. These people are dicks!
We're not going to Delhi, doll. We're going to Pankot Palace.
Waiting until now to deliver this news to Willie. But also, why does she have to go with them? There has to be another guide that could take her to Delhi. Why would Indy even want her to come? He seems to despise her. And even if he didn't, I can't imagine he would want her to risk her life along with him on this quest. Willie is this movie's square peg trying to fit Indy's round hole. Wait.
Cut it out.
There's plenty of room around the fire. Willie could just move away from the elephant. This movie really likes its situational humor, which is weird because very little of it is funny.
Shorty's family were killed when the Japanese bombed Shanghai. He's been living on the street since he was 4. I caught him trying to pick my pocket. Didn't I, short stuff?
So kidnapping him and putting him in my adventures was the only natural thing to do. I'm trying to wrap my head around how this would even happen. How would really not realize she's touching something that is not her clothing? How would the bat let this happen? What was the bat doing on the ground? Why are we teaching Common Core math to kids? I have so many questions.
I said, cut it out!
Why does Willie think this is the elephant f***ing with her? She moved away from the elephant and has it in clear view of her. She would know the elephant isn't behind her.
My name is Indiana Jones.
Dr. Jones, the eminent archaeologist.
Man, being an archaeologist in 1935 must have been like being John Lennon in the 60s.
The British find it amusing to inspect us at their convenience.
The British.
Sneak. Surprise.
If you're stuffing eels inside a giant snake and calling it a meal, you're basically tearing down all the hard work you've done to make your temple look wholesome and good. This whole eating sequence definitely freaked me out as a kid, but as an adult I can see it's just an excuse to make fun of other cultures. This scene is gross, but it has all to do with the problematic point that is being made and nothing to do with the visuals that are presented to us.
Peasants there told us Pankow Palace was growing powerful again because of some ancient evil.
If you're Indiana Jones, why would you bring this up? If you know the temple is running a crooked shop, you wouldn't want them to suspect why you're here, right? Does this asshole think he's James Bond?
I'm sorry. Thought we were talking about folklore.
Dude, you just said the villagers told you that the palace had taken something from them. You know, in the modern day. Nothing about folklore. You're f***ing the shop, man. Someone's gonna be waiting in your bedroom to kill you now. Are you happy about that?
And wasn't it the Sultan of Madagascar who threatened to cut your head off?
Seriously, how does Rando Pancot guy know so much about Indy? It's not like he knew Dr. Jones was coming. The director said, let's give Dr. Jones an apple so the audience will know he's an asshole. And then the director said, let's have Willie pounce on the apple like she's a starved hyena so the audience will know she will never be given anything to do in this movie that doesn't humiliate her. This has to be the assholiest apple scene since Genesis. This relationship makes zero sense, especially right now. They have been at each other's throats the entire time they've known each other, which at this point I think is around 2 days.
If you want me, Willie, you know where you can find me.
And a bedroom you're sharing with a young boy. This movie wastes a lot of time on whether Indy and Willie will f*** or not. Wow, I sure am glad this dude waited all this time to try and kill Indy. Think of all the tremendous humor about Indy and Willie's bruised egos we would have missed. So these flowers are moving because there's some sort of draft in the room, but there's no way it's moving them that much when the secret room is pretty tightly shut. Also, why would they put Willie in a room where the secret passage is located? I guess it could be hubris, but why take the damn chance that Indy or Willie would discover this? Well, looky there! Same drawing and everything. That sure worked out well for all involved in the quest. Why would there be so many bugs swarming around this one section of the secret room? It's not like there's food here, and it's not the place where all the evil resides. Like, you just came from a bedroom, and you're about to walk into another room that's just one big booby trap. Why is the entire insect kingdom here? So they walk from the bug-filled chamber to this room, which is a booby trap for some reason. Really, the only practical reason why this room is a booby trap is because it's a holdover from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you gotta give the fans what they love. But even the way it booby traps is silly. This one button on the floor that you could easily miss seals up the room. And this in no way obvious stone on the door causes the ceiling with spikes to come down. The very location of all this makes no sense. Why would you build all this next to a random bedroom in the palace?
Oh, I broke a nail.
Another instance of I broke a nail. Jesus Christ, why is this character? Here's an extra 50 cents for this movie going out of its way to make Willie Scott the most insufferable character in the history of cinema. Also, how does she not feel this giant bug resting on her hand?
You can do it. Feel inside.
Look, movie, you can't show me all the spikes this close to their heads and then 20 seconds later pretend like the ceiling hasn't already collapsed and skewered and smashed these guys yet. Indy and Willie are able to get across the room and under the descending wall in time, valuing a hat this much. Jeez, I guess reaching into a dude's chest with your bare hands is pretty easy if that man's chest is made of paper mache. Looks like these guys are gonna die historic on the Fury Road. This might be the most specific sacrifice ritual ever made. Tear a dude's heart out, keep him alive, put him in a cage, and then melt his body? What the hell draws people to this religion? Do people get laid in this cult?
That's the rock they took from the village.
Super obvious statement is super obvious.
Where's he going?
Since there were guards behind Willie and Short Round, why did this asshole jump in front of them in the first place? Were the guards like, hey Hank, we can grab him from behind? And then Hank replied with, yeah, that would work, but wait till I stick my head up and scare him. I'd like to know if I still have the ability to make people shit the pants. The isolated scream of one child is what brought Indy here, but when he arrives, we see hundreds of child slaves all working in this huge factory. He would have definitely heard more commotion and definitely more than just a single child screaming, as if it were coming from hell's baby monitor. I appreciate Indy trying to save this kid, but that doesn't mean I buy for a second he would alert everyone to his presence without having a better plan in place. Were these guys behind Indy the whole time? What were they waiting for? And are they trained to pull all their blades out in unison? Do they get punished if any of them are off the mark? I want to know more about these guys. Where's their movie? Why are some of the prisoners chained up to where they can't move, and Shorty and a couple of the other kids are chained at the hands, but they can move around freely?
I keep telling you, you listen to me more, you live longer.
Short Round is still capable of making jokes when locked up in the child slavery dungeon.
They will make me drink the blood of the Kali. Then I'll fall into the black sleep of the Kali Ma.
Conveniently placed prisoner that delivers Indy and Short Round much needed knowledge is conveniently placed.
Soon we will have all the 5 Shankara stones, and the Thuggies will be all powerful.
What a vivid imagination.
Indy, you just saw a man get his heart removed, and he was still alive. Maybe it's not imagination.
You don't believe me?
I mean, Indy is still 22 years away in his timeline from seeing aliens, so he's not quite there yet, Mola Ram. But these Sankara stones are going to look realistic as hell compared to what goes down in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. Were the leather jacket, hat, and whip necessary for the Indy voodoo doll to work? Did the film make the Maharaja a kid so Short Round would have a nemesis? Because I think the film made the Maharaja a kid so Short Round would have a nemesis. Even if these people worship an evil god, this is still way too much overcandling. And why are there 3 candles per foot on this stone slab Indy is lying on? Meanwhile, in Bram Stoker's Dracula...
I'm not gonna have anything nice to say about this place when I get back.
Many people are unaware that shortly after these events, Willie Scott would create TripAdvisor. The movie's been pretty clear how f***ing evil this cult is. And there are always multiple slave drivers whipping children to make that fact clear. But now, when Short Round wants to break his chains, nobody's around. Why the f*** is there a rope dangling from this red hole? I probably don't want to be asking questions like that. Why are they sending Willie down into the fire pit without removing her heart first? There's not even a little bit of explanation about why her sacrifice would be different from the previous one we saw. Somehow, after drinking blood that changes your entire demeanor, a dream from which you never wake up, someone can simply burn you and it snaps you out of it. We have a ritual headpiece off, we have a ritual headpiece on.
Balaram!
F***ing what? This trapdoor is more ridiculous than the one Rami Malek uses in No Time to Die. White savior narratives. Okay, everybody, when you're running out of the palace, make it look like you haven't seen the sunlight in a very long time. Just, well, I guess that message got to about 2 of you. F*** it. Why did the Maharaja remove the pin from the doll? He had Indy down for the count. Why give him another chance to defeat you? Now this asshole is just sitting there with the voodoo doll wondering what to do while Indy rallies in the fight. Now he gets back to poking the doll as if this is a video game where you have a voodoo power bar to refill before you can go back to voodooing. Indy's head will be this close to the rock crusher for the next 14 goddamn seconds. And while I don't want Indy to die, and he can't since this is a prequel anyway, he should be dead. If they had guns, why were they coming at Indy with swords this whole time? The movie expects me to believe that Short Round's kicks and punches are this effective. I know I've been giving this movie a lot of crap, but the mine cart sequence is the and is one of the most memorable parts of all 3 films, because there are only 3 films in the Indiana Jones franchise. But also, a literal roller coaster ride. Like, who the made these tracks do this and why?
We got company!
You could take Han Solo out of the Star Wars, but you can't take the Star Wars out of Han Solo. Introducing one of the funniest, not the actors, shots in movie history. How big is this mine anyway? I thought the Kali cult was looking for 2 stones hidden by a priest in the catacombs, but this is a full-blown mine that goes for miles. Why would they ever need something this huge and intricate to search what should be a relatively small area? This is probably more impossible than the jump in speed. I'm sorry, I can't say that with a straight face, but still. Movie once again shows us something approaching that is way too close to escape, but will find a way to let the protagonist live anyway. Check out these glowing assholes! I like how this movie shows the alligators down below, as if the steep fall off this bridge wouldn't kill them first. Also, they're supposed to be crocodiles, but they filmed alligators. Movie doesn't know how to geography. Hey look, it's a repeat of that scene from Raiders when Indy casually shot that guy. But guess what? He knows he doesn't have a gun here, right? How can he possibly not know that at this point? He needed a gun in the worst way for like the last 30 minutes of this movie. Amazing how the big hole Short Round put into this bridge a minute ago isn't there anymore. How the
Drop them, Dr. Jones! They will be found! You won't!
How does Mola Ram know for certain the stones will be found? And who's going to look for them in alligator-infested waters?
Behind you!
This bridge is on for some time. Can they not see Willie, Indy, and Short Round tying themselves to the bridge? Wouldn't that be a dead giveaway as to what's about to happen?
What are you doing?
What about this confuses Mola Ram? Indy has been holding the sword up for the last 20 seconds, and Short Round loudly pronounced they were going for a ride. Read the room, Mola Ram.
Indy, cover your heart!
Because of all the different things Mola Ram would do while hanging from a broken bridge on a cliff, it's that Kali Ma bullshit. Short Round predicts this so well, I think he gave Mola Ram the idea to do it. Man, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but this guy is evil. There are like 50 archers on this bridge, and you'd think one guy, even with terrible aim, would hit Indy, but they don't. Guys, I no longer know what's going on. It's crazy how gently Mola Ram's body hits this rock on the way down, as if physics is forgiving. By the way, with this movie and Romancing the Stone, we were kind of obsessed with people getting eaten by crocs and gators in 1984, weren't we? Movie pretends like Short Round can't find another angle to see Indy hanging from the bridge or ask the other side if they can see him. Movie shows Indy, Willie, and Short Round walking a lonely walk when we know there are hundreds of children following them, but for some reason they aren't in the picture because this movie needs to make a big emotional reveal. But also, why aren't the kids already at home anyway? We saw the one kid earlier who escaped and found his way back to the village, so you'd think at least one person out of that group would know the way home. Did they wait for Indy to win the movie while they congregated at a Stuckey's? 50 Shades of, my God, this is f***ed up. Might want to wipe that elephant snot off your face before... Okay, you're just going for it.
Dismount!
What are they supposed to tie their horses to, though? The dead shrubs?
Indy. What are they doing? Indiana.
God damn it, kid. We get it already. That's young Indiana Jones.
Just tell Mr. Havelock that there are men looting in the caves. Have him bring the sheriff.
How far away is the sheriff, though? He's not, like, right nearby.
Right. Run back, Mr. Havelock, the sheriff.
Fedora and his crew can't hear this kid loudly repeating what Indiana just said.
He's got our thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest piece of dialogue ever written. He's got our thing. Vehicles that definitely should have been closer to the cave entrance in the first place and should have clued the Boy Scouts that other people were already here magically show up from some hidden place when Fedora whistles for them. And wait, the bad guys had a truck waiting back where Indy's horse was? I am obligated to send this car driving over this terrain without incident.
Come on, get him!
Unnecessary orders. What is this crawlable and reinforced upper deck rail thing here? I assume the answer will be for feeding the dangerous animals, but why can't they just throw food in from the roof of the car or from a window opening on the side? Why should they have to maybe fall into one of these pits just so the animals can eat? Jeez, this whole Boy Scout adventure is Indiana Jones and the kingdom of the character scroll. All facets of his origin story get found here. His whip, the scar on his chin, his fear of snakes, and ultimately his fedora hat. You'd think building all the tiny facets of your character would take a lifetime. For Indy, it was running around on a circus train. Somehow Indy hides in this coffin in the magic car of the train, and that ends up with him running away from the train. There's no way this magic box prop is designed to work with the floor while inside a train car in transit. So however it works to make the magician invisible, it can't even theoretically send him outside the train entirely. At least not in a way where he's not also run over by said train. This train is moving slow enough, and that cross is worth enough money that some or all of these thieves should be jumping off the train right now to pursue.
I brought the sheriff.
But he didn't bring the deputy. Also, how did Herman know to come back to the Jones residence? Wasn't he supposed to bring people back to the mountain? Did news of the circus train get back that quickly? What's really weird is the bad guys, I guess, somehow got to the sheriff at the same time as Herman and managed to change the narrative, and God knows what happened to the other Boy Scouts and their leader. So Indy's signature hat look came from a thief who bought out the local cops to steal back a cross teen Indy took from him? That's disappointing. This asshole grabs the cross and is entirely too happy about getting it when he's still got bad guys to contend with on a boat in the middle of the goddamn ocean during a storm. After this huge explosion, a magical life raft shows up right next to Indy so that he can luck his way into the next scene. Who found him in the middle of the ocean? Well, very few people know this, but it was the RMS Carpathia.
Percus, I did it.
You got it.
Yes, I wanted to teach a class first before bringing you this monumental discovery. Didn't have time to do it beforehand. Just got off the Carpathia 15 minutes before the morning bell. Indiana kept the cross of Coronado in a f***ing unlocked drawer the whole time instead of a safe. He's been through entirely too much shit over this cross just to leave it exposed like that. The movie vastly overestimates Dr. Jones' popularity. Why the hell would so many people be eager to talk to him? Did someone time travel in 1989 to find films of his exploits? This office is honestly laughable. He has a huge water heater behind him, which is supposed to be a joke about how little the university respects his craft despite his apparently insane popularity. But then it's clear this is also the main storage facility for all the artifacts he's found. And storing old things near water is a recipe for disaster. But the film is only interested in advancing the Dr. Jones has so many artifacts plot lines, so you can eat a
I know who you are, Mr. Donovan. Your contributions to the museum over the years have been extremely generous.
Makes you wonder then why he needed to send his men, who surrounded him like he had no choice but to come see their boss a minute ago. Yes, we know Donovan is a bad guy, but seems like someone with his impeccable reputation could have simply made a f***ing phone call.
An old man's dream.
Every man's dream, including your father's, I believe.
By the way, your dad is missing. I won't tell you until the end of this scene. Anyway, you ever see that John Cleese movie about the Holy Grail? We are the knights who say knee, ha ha ha!
After the Grail was entrusted to Joseph of Arimathea, it disappeared and was lost for 1,000 years before it was found again by 3 knights.
Before it was found again is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Where, when, and how was that found again?
This is the manuscript in which the friar chronicled the knight's story.
Holy shit! There's an actual document of the night story of the Holy Grail, and it's not from some sort of bedtime story as Indy keeps derisively calling it? Where do you find that shit? Isn't the discovery of the document huge in itself? Indy doesn't even bother to ask about it.
It doesn't reveal the location of the Grail, I'm afraid, but the knight promised that 2 markers that had been left behind would.
So, once again, some dickheads decided to make the quest for a valuable object a dickish one. They left 2 markers with absolutely no context for how to find them in the first place, which makes you wonder if they even wanted other people to find them or why this knight bothered to tell the friar this story. The quest for the Grail is also going to involve passing 3 tests of faith, also dickish. Why go through all of this, ever? What's the end game? When did these knights get out of this personally or in their service to God?
We're only 1 step away.
That's usually when the ground falls out from underneath your feet.
For quickening.
Why don't you try my father?
We already have. Your father is the man who's disappeared.
Oh, silly me. I should have mentioned this at the very beginning. Well, anyway, I'm definitely not a villain.
It's Dad's Grail diary. Why would he have sent this to me?
Good question, since we find out later he sent it so the bad guys wouldn't get it, which you'd think he'd mention in a note somewhere instead of making Indy guess. Anyway, that probably wouldn't be a movie if he did, so yay, movie!
Do you believe the Grail actually exists?
The search for the cup of Christ is the search for the divine in all of us.
Classic example of not answering the question.
How will we recognize this Dr. Schneider when we see him?
Amazing that Donovan didn't tell them that Dr. Schneider was some hot lady. He played an early version of that game where people try to show you how sexist you are when they tell you the riddle of the son and his father who are badly injured and are sent to the hospital, where the doctor says they can't operate on the kid because he's my son, and you're so baffled because the father was clearly taken into surgery, but then you say, oh, I know, the kid has two dads. One is a doctor and the other is a clumsy f***. You almost made me say the mom was a doctor. Holy f***, how embarrassing would that have been?
Now, please excuse me. The library is closing in a few moments. I'll arrange for us to stay a little longer.
Is there any reason you didn't make these arrangements on the way in? Would he not find where to dig if you were still in the room? By the way, what the f**king is this map that Indiana's dad drew? What exactly was this supposed to do, other than tell people that these Roman numerals were important? Why wasn't it scrawled in the diary, instead of this scrap that he conveniently left behind? Love the scene where Indy climbs to the second story in order to be able to see an X on the floor that anyone on the first floor could have easily seen. Movie requires this librarian to be stupid for Indy's plan to work. Also, Indy isn't exactly timing this on purpose, so what was his plan if security or police came in? This is a great comedy bit, and it makes us forget about what a problem this would be, but guess what, f***ers? I created a YouTube channel 23 years after this movie was made, so I could totally ignore that. 3 big taps with a metal stand made from weak-ass metal is all it takes to open up this stone floor. This is the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword, who I guess have a fire station-style headquarters here in this library in case they get word that someone is f***ing with the X on the floor. I'd love to know how they got informed of this, and what their hours are like. Brody sits here looking down the hole and hears people coming, but does absolutely nothing. You'd think they'd want to cover up the fact that they broke through the floor a minute ago and at least put the tile back in and put a book over the hole and maybe even use the stanchions to block it off, but apparently they were in no way concerned about getting caught. I guess after Stamper Guy didn't catch them earlier, their concern was officially over.
What's this one?
The Ark of the Covenant.
I'm surprised there isn't a Temple of Doom drawn somewhere in these catacombs. I like how Indy creates a torch from a skeleton arm, some clothing, and a lighter, and then when we see the torch in action, it doesn't appear to be adding much more light than the movie's lighting already provides. Instead of just having her take off her heels, movie decides to throw her over the strong man's shoulder, ass facing the camera, because this movie is for the manly men. Why would an entire left side of a shield be covered in dust when the other side is mostly clean? In this dark-ass tomb filled with petroleum, Indy is able to see down here as if there are natural lights down here, and it's just plain water. Also, this is all we see that is supposed to prove that Indy found a way out of here. There's almost no way there's an exit. We're supposed to believe this somehow connects with a sewer tunnel later. Why are these assholes running out of the building like they know where Indy and Elsa went? They burned the river of petroleum, and there's no way they could have walked down to confirm whether they were dead or not, or that they found a magic sewer connection down in the tube.
Are you crazy? Don't go between them!
Go between them, are you crazy?
Hilarious miscommunication, but what the f*** was Elsa doing? If she thought going in between them was crazy, then why was she aiming the boat that way? While one of the boats chasing them was smart enough to go around these two converging ships, the people driving this boat inexplicably go between them.
Ask yourself, why do you seek the cup of Christ?
Because the people who last had it wrote down instructions on how to find it.
Marcus, you remember what the Grail tablet said?
You talk about the Grail tablet as if an etching of it isn't sitting right in front of you. You don't have to remember what it said. It's right there. This room is trashed. He was literally across the hall and would definitely have heard this happening.
Since I met you, I've nearly been incinerated, drowned, shot at, and chopped into fish bait.
Yes, this is true, but wouldn't all of those things have happened anyway if Indy's dad had put the scrap of paper with the Roman numerals on it inside the Grail diary? I thought an archaeologist knew the difference between correlation and causation.
I'm going to continue to do things the way I think they should be done.
Don't worry, kids. It's okay, because she ends up sleeping with him. Also, since Elsa is an antagonist and now knows where the diary is and she's about to do something very James Bondian and sleep with Indy to strengthen trust, why isn't she able to just steal it in the middle of the night and leave before Indy notices? I think it's interesting that to get to Salzburg on the Austrian-German border, they actually had to cross into Germany briefly and then back into Austria. What's that? Really? Huh. Well, folks, I'm being told that it's not actually very interesting. Apologies. Indy knocks the butler out cold with a single backhanded punch. Why the f*** does he need a whip or a gun when he's this f***ing strong? I wonder why they didn't spring for the really big map.
Alexandria, of course. On the pilgrim trail from the Eastern Empire.
It's It sounds like you could have figured out where the Grail was by the process of elimination. I mean, I'd want to know for a fact what city to start from before going on a journey too, but someone who's been obsessed with the Grail for this long might have deduced this without the second marker. What the hell took these guys so long? Did they read the script?
What? Trust me.
Henry very annoyingly doesn't tell Indy why he knows this for a fact, hoping that trust decides this. I can't believe I've never noticed this random hair, probably Elsa's, stuck in Indy's chin stubble. Now I will never not see it.
This book contained a map with no names.
I'll tell you what's really unbelievable is how Elsa didn't spy camera the out of this diary during the time she spent with Henry. I'm sure by this point the Nazis had heard of Walter Zapp. Okay, so this ramp is a trick that goes into a truck instead of a building, but I have questions. How did they know that Brody and Sala would shake off the two men in the black suits? How did they know the pair would then run this direction and absolutely for certain choose this ramp as the escape option? Also, why were 2 bowls of peppers holding this door down? This is a f***ing waste of delicious peppers. Okay, so cool. They decided not to kill the Joneses just in case they can't get what they need from Brody. But why do they keep them tied up in a room like this with no guards? Do they really think that is an inescapable situation? Everything in this room has been doused in vodka. How the f*** did the Joneses, especially the older one, get up there? I mean, I'm happy they found a way, but I'm just happier to call it bullshit.
Not going on the boat!
Pretty f***ing obvious no one is on that boat, but sure, send this entire squad to go after it. Could they just not wait until the bad guys were on the boat and in the water first? This misdirection is barely a misdirection at all. This dude waited way too long to attempt to shoot. What tactical advantage is he getting here with this goof-ass wheelie land on the back of their thing with your front wheel thing? Okay, get prepared for some hilarity as Indy throws this pole into the motorcycle wheel. In the next shot, we can clearly see the dummy they rigged for this with an explosive charge that sends the dummy flying. And this amazing shot of the dummy practically looking down at the Joneses as if to say, "F my life."
We're going the wrong way. We have to get to Berlin.
Brody's this way.
So they are currently on the Austrian-German border, and the sign next to them shows Berlin going one way and Venice going the other. As far as Indy knows, Brody is in Iskender, which is in what we moderns call Turkey. Surely he's not suggesting that they need to drive the motorcycle to Turkey from here. Also, they stop on the side of the road and literally turn off the bike to have a chat, as though none of the dudes that were chasing them will keep chasing them, or no other guards will ever show up in pursuit. You guys are wanted dead by the main f***ing guy in that outfit.
But I found the clues that will safely take us through in the Chronicles of St. Anselm.
Well, what are they?
I wrote them down in my diary so that I wouldn't have to remember.
Henry Jones's character is that he's so obsessed with finding the Grail that he's spent a lifetime studying it, practically neglecting fatherhood to do so. I guarantee he didn't write down the clues only to never look at them again, but I guess it's off to Berlin for f***'s sake.
The armies of darkness will march all over the face of the earth.
Doesn't the Grail just, keep you young? I don't think you can clone people with it, for instance. And I don't think it helps if you get blown up by a bomb or a grenade. I guess I'm struggling to see how the thing would create an unbeatable army of the damned. Hey, what gives? Someone took a recent American news clip and inserted it into this 80s action-adventure film. This is something Spielberg is extremely good at, and that's using subtle camera placement and movement to give you the whole deal without forcing unneeded dialogue. We know that Indy has knocked out a guard, hit in the body, and stolen his uniform to blend in, and the camera just started in the right place and gently lifted to the next right place. If this was a Marvel movie, they not only would have felt compelled to show us the guard being knocked out, but they'd also cut it to death. But also, how did they cross the border into Germany and deep into Berlin without getting caught? A middle-aged guy wearing a fedora and an old guy driving around on a motorcycle with a sidecar shouldn't be that hard to radio in. She's crying at the burning of the books because, you see, she's one of the good ones.
All I have to do is squeeze.
All I have to do is scream.
Not if you're getting strangled, Elsa. Besides, with all the noise and shit, I doubt you would be heard anyway. Why did the Jones boys decide to take a blimp out of Germany? They drove there. Why not drive back? And if you're worried about roadblocks, then wouldn't those same authorities have blimp blocks in place as well? The no-ticket scene is classic, and I'm glad Indy kicked Vogel's ass off the blimp. But I remember him being accompanied by another person who was helping him out, and he never appears again. Wouldn't Vogel be discovered and the blimp flight grounded until they sorted this out? Why did they dump all the luggage out here and never load it up into the Zeppelin?
It's disgraceful. You're old enough to be her grandfather.
Dude, you're like 47. Twice her age. And if stuff I've read about your relationship with Marion Ravenwood is true, you've never been too concerned with age when it comes to sex and dating. He's not in the shot, but Tom Cruise actually learned how to fly a real World War II era biplane for this movie. Damn, I knew this guy was distracted by the plane flying overhead, but I didn't realize he was so distracted that he could miss 2 people jumping into his car before the car even started. Look, movie, you can't show me the bullets getting this close to the car and in the next 2 seconds tell me that the car didn't get hit by bullets. Now, how did you know there was a tunnel around that corner? The crash plane is going down the exact middle of the tunnel, and yet Indy can just pull his car to the side and allow it to pass by like there's that kind of room in here. Wait, why is that gun empty? I'm pretty sure he hasn't fired it all movie. Does this mean it was empty when he had it drawn back when they snuck into the castle? Pappy Jones is addicted to birds. While Indy admires his bird-killing dad from afar, the next question should be, how the f*** are they going to get back to civilization so they can get to Iskenderun and catch up with Donovan? All their vehicles are dead and they are in the middle of nowhere. The movie will cut to Donovan asking permission from the powers that be to search for the Grail, and with the snap of the editor's fingers, Indy and Henry are riding with Sala at the very city they need to be, as if they literally traveled by map like the Muppets did.
Now they have the map, and in this sort of race, there's no silver medal for finishing second.
Yes, but they don't have any idea about the 3 challenges they're going to face. You could technically just let them all die trying to get the Grail. I guess you still have to save Brody, but they clearly can't get the Grail without the diary. You've had God knows how many hours to plan for this. And your best idea is, well, maybe we can beat them to the location before they get there. Without any explanation, Indy, Henry, and Sala got to this point before Donovan. This is an Atlanta Falcons versus New England Patriots in the Super Bowl kind of collapse. Also, this motherfucker is too smart to be this dumb. Also, they cannot see the vehicle up on the ridge behind Indy, and yet later the bad guy says,
In this sun, without transportation, they're as good as dead.
So how the did they know there was a car up there, and how the hell did they know they had destroyed it? I just don't understand the purpose of this Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword. They're dedicated to protecting the Grail, sure, but why? Do they not know what kind of shit you have to go through to get it? The 3 challenges and the secret 4th one are the defense. People are allowed to do this. The Grail Knights wouldn't have set this up otherwise. Maybe they don't know about the challenges, but that raises even more questions. The Wilhelm line has been protecting the Holy Grail for 1,000 years. Man, these guys had the high ground and it didn't do shit to help them. Why is the fake blood in this movie so bad?
Genius of the restoration.
8-hour resuscitation.
Movie has time for this, even though Henry and Brody clearly don't have time for this.
Jones is getting away!
I think not, Herr Donovan.
Not that Jones, the other Jones!
Wait, did Donovan know Indy was getting away before he entered the frame? The horses were not far behind this tank. And isn't Donovan the de facto leader? Can't he just order the other underlings to go after Jones without sticking his head down in a tank to summon Vogel? Furthermore, Indy is riding a horse while leading 3 others. And while catching him with the cars is the obvious play, they decide to let the slow, cumbersome tank lead. Also, why can't Donovan just yell to Indy, "We have your father, Dr. Jones," and stop this right now? They have all the leverage in this scene, not Indy. As we see Indy riding his horse out of view of the tank, all the people in the cars just let him ride past without as much as taking a shot. I mean, we're supposed to be all happy because the tank turns right into this Jeep or whatever, but did they not see Indy riding right past them? Does anyone want to aim a gun? Indy puts so much stock in this working that he willingly puts himself in the line of fire in a minute. And yeah, of course it works, but that's not the fucking point. F*** yourself straight to Mars if you're saying they can hear each other. Apparently, the guy guarding Indy's dad has absolutely no interest in what's going on just above him and completely misses a whole-ass gun getting dropped within Henry's reach. Mad Max, hurry slow. The ricocheting bullet kills the tank driver, who slumps onto the controls and causes the tank to veer strongly to the right, saving Indy's life. If not for the randomness of the math of ricocheting bullets, Indy dies here and now. Indy is so lucky he should quit archaeology and go into professional gambling. Why would this ancient architecture carved into a cavern wall be so pristine and undiscovered? Weird to me that there aren't any cars parked outside. Donovan and his crew didn't walk here, did they? There was plenty of space for their cars to drive through the canyon. Also, curious, why dismount 50 feet from the entrance when there's nothing to tie the horses to? Strange that this dude's head would just go tumbling this far backwards from maximum horror, especially since the first guy they sent also managed to lose his head, but it fell right next to his body. This guy casually gut shots Indy's dad to convince Indy to go do Grail shit, but he could easily have killed Pappy Indy here. I mean, he definitely probably killed him long term, because stomach wounds are notorious for bleeding out. But I mean, just by how casually he hip-fired that weapon without aiming, that's bad form.
The healing power of the Grail is the only thing that can save your father now. It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
The Grail keeps you young. The Grail heals all wounds. The Grail gets good grades. The Grail time travels and keeps your mom from being murdered. The Grail does all.
Is humble. kneels before God.
So he kneels and dodges the blade that would have cut off his head. But what is this asshole blade that comes from the ground? So does the penitent man kneel or stop, drop, and roll for God? Also, you not only have to solve the riddle of the kneeling, you have to time it perfectly. And that's just not sporting whatsoever. This riddle is hard unless you see two decapitated guys right in front of you. I say Indy cheated by virtue of outside information.
J?
Somehow Indy is able to step on the incorrect J letter and survive and still be able to continue the quest. This is a fairly dumb challenge, all told. It's way more forgiving than the first challenge. This is a spelling bee with mulligans. Why didn't the booby trap makers anticipate the evil people who would follow the puzzle solvers into the Vault of Awesome? The forced perspective of this optical illusion bridge is pretty neat, but the Grail Knights are total dicks for not making this wider and less nopey. I know we're supposed to laugh at the knight who is so old that he can't do his job anymore, but why the f*** is someone who passes the 3 tests subject to this bullshit? I've said it once, and I'll say it again. If you don't want people taking your treasure, then don't leave roadmaps to it. Even vague, nearly impossible to solve roadmaps.
Knew you would come.
Really? Why did you make so many booby traps then?
Pass it to you who vanquished me.
He didn't vanquish you. You're just really f***ing old.
But as the true Grail will bring you life, false Grail will take it from you.
I'm completely down with a grail that belonged to Jesus Christ giving you renewed life, but I'm not down with a false grail ending it. Anything like that would need to be set up by the Grail Knights, aka not warlocks. They created 3 practical challenges for this quest. Maybe they laced all the false grails with a poison that instantly ages you, but I think the movie wants us to believe it's some punishment brought by God, which makes no sense either. According to this movie, the grail was found by these knights 1,000 years after Joseph of Arimathea lost it. There was no particular quest attached to it. Anyone who found it could use it, but these assholes decided, let's make a game, an impossible game, nay, an impossible game where even if you do nearly everything right, we'll kill your ass if you can't pick the right grail out of a lineup. It's very Christian of us.
He chose poorly.
Well, she chose poorly. Donovan just went with it. But God lived by the immortal words of Rush. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
That's the cup of a carpenter.
This is the only cup in the whole place that isn't made of some sort of precious metal. I'm kind of surprised these jerkwad knights didn't throw in 5 other grails that could have been made by a carpenter. I'm surprised the Grail Knight didn't run over and throw a bunch of exact replicas up in the air while knocking the real grail out of Indy's hands. Feel free to make a guess, jerk off.
The Grail cannot pass beyond the Great Seal. That is the boundary and the price of immortality.
Besides, why should there be any proof of God anywhere? How would that help the world? Attracting followers through faith alone has worked so well so far. Why does Indy even have to pour the water on the bullet wound? Why didn't the drinking heal it? And holy shit, what a waste of magical water. Everybody except the bad guys should have had a drink. The Grail still has water in it, despite having been completely emptied by Wastiana Jones just a moment ago.
It's ours, Indy. Yours and mine.
Elsa's not a good person, no matter how much the movie tried to redeem her since the moment they left Castle Grayskull. But considering the choices made with her character in the latter half, I find it incredibly disorienting that she turns into Grail Gollum at the end. How do you booby trap an underground cave to have an earthquake based on someone triggering a trap? That shit makes me angry. Indy absolutely throws himself after Elsa, even though he only recently met her. He seems willing to die to save her. I would have removed every sin if the Grail Knight flipped him off instead.
What did you find, Dad?
Me, illumination.
Papa Jones is responsible for all those terrible Despicable Me movies.
We named the dog Indiana.
You are named after the dog?
The movie comes up with the terrible origin story for Indy's name that rivals the terrible origin story for Nick Fury's scar.
Mountains into Molehills. Story by George Lucas. Russian dude throws out Indiana's hat so the audience can squeal with delight that Indiana Jones has made his arrival.
Flensburg, there was twice as many.
Indy makes a casual reference to an adventure that would easily have made a better movie than this one. I know they shot their way onto the base, but is the rest of the base completely deserted? No one's gonna ask any questions about the prisoners held at gunpoint or all the dead soldiers out at the gate?
Where is it you would imagine I am from?
Oscar-winning actress reduced to a cartoon accent. All the mystery of the warehouse from Raiders of the Lost Ark vanished.
The contents of that box are highly magnetized.
So magnetized that its magnetic field can attract gunpowder in midair from a distance while it's in a crate inside a metal box underneath a whole bunch of other crates. Also, did they really need Indiana Jones for this? What were they expecting him to do? Did they really think after 10 years Indiana would be able to precisely locate a crate in a large warehouse even if he stored it himself?
Give me some shotgun shells.
Pliers. Old Indiana Jones is really more MacGyver than Indiana Jones. These crowbars amusingly stick to the metal container right after they open the crate, but if this alien box is as magnetized as they say, they should have had trouble before then. What? Now the metal light fixtures are affected by the box? Because the plywood shipping crate was dense enough to keep the magnets from being strong enough before?
Why, Mac?
Indiana Jones gets betrayed by someone who's pretending to be his friend cliché.
Damn, I thought that was closer.
Russian soldier guys don't immediately start killing Indy so that he can deliver this wisecrack. Hey, that looks like the same arc from the first movie. Why aren't the lights swaying to follow the magnetic thing in the car Indy's driving? Nobody does terrible aim like Indiana Jones bad guys. Why the fuck would this thing be here? It offers no light, you can't see through it, it's totally fucking pointless. Never construct a secret military supercar launching facility so that the supercar can be launched by someone falling onto the console. Also, here's yet another part of this military base that's completely deserted. This supercar is cool and all, but I'm dying to know what the local prairie dogs might be up to. Well, look at that. I spoke too soon. I don't know if these things are groundhogs or prairie dogs or gophers, but we're expecting 6 more weeks of winter anyway, bitches. Apparently this thing's only magnetized when Indiana Jones needs to find it in some convoluted way. Everything about the house is fake. The people aren't real, the water lines don't work, but the electricity does, and the TV antenna, and it's turned to howdy doody. Indy is too stupid to spot an obvious nuclear testing town, but smart enough to know in a matter of 10 seconds that a lead-lined fridge would protect him from a nuclear blast. Also, everyone who has ever watched this movie has already dinged this. The only thing that gets thrown by the bomb is the fridge, and it perfectly flies over the bad guy's car. Let's not forget, even if he survived the blast, this probably should have killed him too. Indy meet this prairie dog meet Indy. One of you is the star of this movie. I'm just sure of it. Even if he survived the nuclear blast and ensuing bouncing flight across the desert, why the fuck wouldn't he die from radiation poisoning after getting out of the fridge so close to the blast site? Look how close he is to the mushroom cloud. Face it, Indiana Jones is dead. Don't believe me? Just keep watching this movie. Just pretend the guy in the suit is a lady, Indy. Take the free scrub job.
You mean that Air Force fiasco in 47?
Indy makes a casual reference to an adventure that would easily have made a better movie than this one.
Don't you know it's dangerous to climb into a refrigerator? Those things can be death traps.
Apparently not.
What exactly am I being accused of besides surviving a nuclear blast?
Did Professor Jones just say nuclear? Sean Connery probably still earned $1 million just by appearing in this photograph. Also, apparently someone took a picture of Marcus during the scene where he was lost in The Last Crusade and ended up giving it to Indy in a frame. Indy, the government suits, and his unknown illegitimate son all arrive at the train station at the exact same time. Also, how the fuck did he know Indy was gonna be here? Later on, we find out Mutt doesn't even know he's a professor, so he didn't go by the school and ask Dean Charles where he might be.
You're gonna kill him!
Mutt plays the pronoun game so that Indy has to figure out who they means.
Hodgkiss? Hedgekiss? The one he found.
Geez, this server doesn't notice shit, does she? Guy who already had a Coke and a milkshake also ordered a beer.
Whoever returns the skull to the city temple will be given control over its power.
What's the power?
I don't know, kid. It's just a story.
Damn, Indy, how many times have you said that and it ever turned out to be a myth?
Mary Williams, you remember her?
Heard a lot of Marys, kid.
Shut up! That's my mother you're talking about.
Well, that's a reasonable reaction. Also, somehow Mutt either doesn't know or doesn't think to tell Indy his mom's maiden name. And why the shortening from Marion to Mary anyway? Indy turns back over 2 condiments that in the previous shot hadn't even fallen down.
She called me 2 weeks ago from South America.
South America is a f***ing continent, dude.
I mean, the thing's pointless though. It's gibberish. It's not even English lettering.
Kid who grew up worshipping archaeologist Oxley thinks all non-English writing is worthless. Who is this actor playing Mutt anyway? I feel like he used to be famous.
I think you just brought a knife to a gunfight.
I have a feeling this was Sean Connery's line before he turned down the cameo appearance for this film. Diner scene suddenly turns into West Side Story. Also, sudden appearance of fellow leather jacket bros just in time for a fight cliche.
Get that greaser!
You see, stuff like this is why this movie is bad.
Your mom didn't escape. They let her go so she could mail a letter. You could bring it to me and I could translate.
Huh? Does that mean that she wrote a letter to Mutt while she was being held captive and the kidnappers saw it and said, oh, we better let her go so she can mail this? Instead of just, taking it from her and mailing it on their own? What? Everyone is walking through the library like they don't hear a guy riding a motorcycle through it. I mean, don't you clear out as soon as you see some shit like this? This is the first of the Wilhelm clan to go to college, I believe.
Excuse me, Dr. Jones?
Steven Spielberg tries his hand at directing a Zucker Brothers film. The Russians are looking for me to kidnap me, so let's go back to my apartment, where I live, where it's a matter of public record that I call that place my residence. Let's go there. Mutt combs his hair in this movie so many times the continuity person on this movie started to lose track.
Nobody speaks it. Hasn't been heard aloud in 3,000 years. Might be able to read a bit, though, if I walk it through Mayan first.
Those 2 languages are not related. Indiana Jones movie rips off the traveling by map thing from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Pancho Villa.
Technically, I was kidnapped.
Indy makes a casual reference to an adventure that would have easily made a better movie than this one. All tiny dirt road villages in South America have sanitariums. This fan must have been turned on today after not being in use for 10 years.
Cradle, birth. Oriana wasn't born in Peru, he was born in Spain.
Why didn't Indiana make this connection before? He translated this letter in the States and should have known immediately that the word didn't mean birthplace for this very reason.
Ox didn't mean Oriana's birthplace.
Oxley left a lot of things to chance for people to find him. He wrote a riddle in a dead language that had to be walked through Mayan to be translated. He carved a picture of a cemetery in his cell, a cell they only found because Indy speaks some language that, oh my god, Pancho Villa's guys apparently taught him. It would have been amazing if Oxley could have found himself.
He's been wrapped up for 500 years.
Indy rounds 400 years to 500.
Is this one open already?
Hey, I need a line that points out to the audience that this one's already open. You know, just in case they can't tell by looking. Once again, none of the other metal things in the general vicinity of this dead guy are being pulled toward his chest plate. Mutt's knife even waits several seconds before being affected by this thing. Magnets! How do they work?
Maybe the Spaniards found the skull along with all this other loot. Maybe the Indians caught up with him or the...
Good archaeology always leans heavily on speculation.
He put it back where he found it. Why?
I don't know, but we should definitely do the opposite. Bad guys lock up Indy in a gynecology chair. Also, where's all this electricity coming from out here in the middle of the Amazon? I mean, generators, sure, but damn. How many f***ing generators for this tent alone? Ukraine girl turns the dial from straight up to the next notch on the right, but it's already in that position in the previous shot.
It was not made by human hands.
Who made it then? Come on.
Indy's reaction is exactly what the filmmakers should have thought before making this movie.
Indiana Jones.
See? See this? You'll like this movie because we just referenced this other movie, right?
Auto writing, I should have seen this.
Yes, you should have. He was obviously moving his hand in a writing motion.
Henry Jones III.
Mutt's last name is Williams, so he's Henry Williams I, technically.
Hey, grab the rope!
Grab the rope!
Indy is a 5-year-old. This would have torn the snake in half.
Good work, Ox, thanks.
Honestly, did the Russians actually need Crazy Ox telling them where everybody was? They were all yelling in the quicksand, so they should have found everyone pretty easily. We interrupt this Indiana Jones sequel to bring you Avatar. The Russians decide not to learn their lesson and just throw away Indy's whip already.
You vanish after that.
Vanished? Where could Indy vanish? In Raiders, the year is 1936. At Temple of Doom, it's 1935 for some reason. And in The Last Crusade, it's 1938. And he's banging that Elsa chick in The Last Crusade. So in 1937, Indy and Marion must have had an everyday normal relationship where Indy introduced her to his friends, including Oxley. In all those years, Indy is still a professor at Marshall College. He couldn't have gone anywhere for a long time, at least not by the context clues of the other films. Doesn't the driver hear all this commotion in the back? It's not like there's a solid wall between him and the passengers. Also, aren't there other vehicles behind them that could see this? Yep. There is. And of course, they didn't find his knife and confiscate it. Why would they? Oh, so wait, there's no one behind them? Look, either there is or there isn't cars behind them. Either way, it's dumb to have your valuable prisoners, especially someone as sneaky as Indiana Jones, riding in the back of a convoy. Okay, I have no idea where everything is in relation to each other now. This anti-Greenpeace tank was at the very front of the convoy, destroying trees. Indy's bazooka shot hits it on its side. How he hit it at that angle, we'll never know. Now, something comes off the tank and hits this truck and bounces over 2 other vehicles. Indy and crew are way in the back here. Wherever he shot this thing, he's in no position to do so. And what the fuck is going on? A boat car? We better swap this truck for that boat car. No telling when that might come in handy. What are they shooting at? It's a good thing Mutt told us he was good at fencing earlier. I'm glad that paid off randomly here. Great, we're gonna see Mutt do some sword fighting, but couldn't he use that gun that's on the front of this thing? Are we still on the road that was created by the rainforest killing machine? Mutt's on the hood here, but finds himself in the backseat in the very next shot. Am I wrong, or could the driver move slightly to the right and this fight would be over? Also, Mutt is about to run right into a tree. There's really no stopping it, but right after Indy hits the Russian car, the tree becomes a non-factor and the movie does the cute little Mutt and Spalko switch cars stunt. Come on, this dude should have been knocked out after 1 hit. The skull's amazing, remember? Also, Skull somehow loses its magnetic properties again. Oh well. Indy's car behind is like 50 yards behind in this shot, but then magically only 10 feet behind when Mutt falls. Mutt falls backwards and flails wildly, but the skull is somehow thrown forward enough for Spalko to catch it easily.
What are you looking at, Daddy-O?
Dude, the f***ing gun! You're propped up against the solution to this problem. I miss Stan Winston. We interrupt this Indiana Jones sequel to bring you a game of f***ing Pitfall. Mutt just caught up to speeding vehicles by swinging on vines. Also, the monkeys of the Amazon are anti-communist by nature. None of these people died when the car was run over.
Big damn ants, go!
Big damn ants. Where the f*** have these guys been all this time? How did they know to drive here? I'm starting to think these guys are using blanks. If ants that could eat you this quickly actually existed, I'm pretty sure South America would be completely uninhabited. Thank God the killer ants have carved 2 separate paths around this fistfight so that Indy doesn't get eaten. I mean, I know Ox took out the skull and the ants scattered around him, but why do they continue to separate well after passing the skull? Here's a perfect opportunity to cut the ropes and kill all the bad guys. Soon to be wasted.
Mom, slow down!
This guy calls Smutt's mom, Mom.
That's the idea!
Bad idea! Give me the wheel! Mom!
Trust me!
Okay, so Marion saw this tree a few minutes ago and actually thought to herself, yeah, this tree will catch this vehicle and lay us gently into the water later. Reality. This boat car somehow travels 100 yards in the time it takes the tree to snap back up to the top. This kind of kills people. What the actual f***? Okay, so remember how they got in here. They pulled these rocks out, the sand came out, and this bullshit happened, and they fell down into the place. So this should only have to ever be done once. Because who's going to fill all that sand back up and replace all the stones that keep the sand in? Yet there are dead adventurers on spikes down here, who apparently got this far before. Who's in charge of getting all the columns back into place and the sand refills? Magnetic, and now all the gold has lost interest in being attracted to this skull, and the other coins that were moving, I guess, gave up. Guy who stole treasure ends up dying over it, cliche. Thanks for putting that skull back on my body. Now, f*** you. Also, how did the skull get torn off the alien's head in the first place? If the aliens have a hive mind and all this power, and someone walked into the chamber, how would a puny human be able to get close enough to cut the head off an interstellar being such as this? Then steal it, then leave the pyramid. I mean, did the whole thing with the sand and the booby-trapping stairway and the chamber you can only get into by sticking a crystal skull in it get built after the skull was stolen? And what the f*** for? To make it harder to put the skull back on the alien? Who the f*** did what and when in this story? Alien Spaceship Palace has a built-in mechanism to shoot wandering humans out of harm's way before liftoff. Man, so much bullshit just happened, I think the dinger might have broken.
But their treasure wasn't gold, it was knowledge.
And also that shitload of gold that was down there. No! Oh, thank God.
Disney was smart enough to spread this blame around. Why do all these artifacts have to go back to Jesus? The Ark, the Grail, now this blade. I mean, Jesus! What is with the fucking hubris of Hollywood with these younger version deepfakes? It started with X-Men The Last Stand and then Tron Legacy, and sure, they've gotten better, but they are still uncanny valley as f***. And even if this were perfect, did we really need to flash back to younger Indy? I swear all the sequels in this franchise believe that the main thing that worked in the first film was that Indy had a hat and a whip. He's going to ensure the vehicle keeps going at top speed while he goes out to battle a guy on a nearby motorcycle, and somehow he's still going to make his way back into this vehicle like he planned the whole thing, and this is a Simpsons episode. Also, this works, or Indy survives this. Take your pick. I choose both. Wilhelm Nazis. If you put out an Indiana Jones video game for the PS5 today and said this was a still from it, I would believe you. If you want me to believe this is a live-action younger Indy, well, then we are not cut from the same cloth, because I was cut from the cloth of reality.
Too many Nazis.
My personal view of the current world somehow makes its way into this movie.
I thought I told you to stay in the woods, Baz.
I mean, technically he did. He only came out of the woods when he was being chased by Nazis and dogs. Not sure how he was supposed to remain in the woods at that point.
What sort of a man hides in a hedge while his friend is facing death?
I mean, I probably would. But also, someone who doesn't want to needlessly die in protest seems like a fine answer.
Archimedes' dial.
Ah! The titular dial of destiny, which has never been spoken of prior to this 5th Indiana Jones movie. I'm so glad we found it. This movie is going to be over so quickly. Also, they couldn't talk about this while on the run or when they get to safety.
You want to stop for a little lie down?
Kind of. They actually only have half of the Antikythera, which seems like a very important plot point that Hannibal Lecter here keeps glossing over. Bringing a knife to an Indiana Jones fight. He's had his goddamn whip this whole fucking time and he's just now using it. That feels like something you should have started with.
Shoot him! Not me!
What took place ever in Indy's experiences with Baz to think he would be a great shot with a gun? Because I've only known Baz for 10 minutes and I could have told you he is fucking not a good shot with a gun.
They can't hear you, Baz!
Baz thinks they can hear him.
Baz! Baz! Baz!
Polo, instant coffee. There are literally no positive qualities to instant coffee. None. Also, this movie is 2 hours and 34 minutes long, and it seemed like a good time to tell you that as we watch him make instant coffee in real time.
Amongst the defenders of the city was its most famous resident, who was
Archimedes.
And Dr. Jones just happens to be teaching about a person that will become a main focus of the rest of the plot, because movie.
You didn't win the war. Hitler lost it.
I'll take Weird Hills to Die On for 400, please.
And I'd become
famous.
That's why you study archaeology, to become famous. Listen, lady, you seem fun, but I can tell you that no one outside of archaeologists knows of any famous archaeologist. Your supposed fame would be limited to the people in your field of study, and most of them would hate you for finding it before them, rather than respecting you for finding it.
Indiana Jones, out with a bang, back in the saddle.
Pitch meeting for film becomes the film. As he gives her the half of the dial from the opening flashback scene, I'm gonna just point out that he didn't vet her at all. She has a passing resemblance to the daughter of that Baz guy, but he just believes her that she's Baz's daughter, and a few minutes later is giving her a priceless artifact.
Your father thought this thing could predict fissures in time.
I mean, hey, at least it's not aliens, right?
Your father wrote so many letters about the dial, I stopped reading them.
And definitely never mentioned it to anyone. As she locks him in with the pursuers and leaves with the half dial, I'd like to remind you that he should never have trusted her ass in the first place. They killed his secretary. Nobody kills his secretary. Helena just jumped from building top to building top, landed on her goddamn knee, and jumped back up and started running full force again. And I would like you to right off, movie. Oh, give me a fucking break.
You're CIA.
Oh, not me, ma'am. I don't take government jobs.
With the exception of the government job you are currently on, is what I think you meant.
How are you acquainted with Miss Shaw?
She's my goddaughter.
Giving honest answers to people that just kidnapped you. So the bad guys kidnap Jones, get turned back at a demonstration blockade, then back into a taxi that was behind them, and then they go, well, let's go on foot. And I am honestly shocked at this decision. This is a kidnapping. You need to back up and there's a car behind you, go pay that guy to back up. But abandoning the vehicle to take your kidnapping victim out on the street on foot is insanity. Indy will now beat several asses despite his run for president level age. This man will face no consequences for this action.
There's a shooting. This morning.
This morning? There was a fucking shot just fired very close to this officer 2 seconds ago. How the f*** did he not hear that? So it's like technology versus horse. Let's slow this footage down, please, because the pursuing villain will, for no discernible advantage, choose to veer hard to the left here and go around the white convertible instead of just continuing right on the heels of the goddamn horse. Fair jumping. How do you keep the horse from touching the third rail? Because that shit is deadly. And a horse really only responds to left, right, fast, or slower. Not so much, don't put your hoof on this part of the track. He stumbles upon an opening to the right that he uses to avoid being smashed by the oncoming train, and there is no way he knew that this opening was there when he said go, go, go.
Sorry I'm late, Indy.
Is anyone ever on time in a movie? Anyone?
Big Rahim owns the Hotel Atlantique in Tangier. And this week, the hotel is hosting its annual auction of stolen antiquities.
That's a weird title for an auction. You're just letting everyone know the shit is stolen. Weird.
Without Helena or the dial, I'm going to get framed for murder.
It really feels like Indy is acting a little too frantic and not thinking about that if he runs, he would be a fugitive. He could actually help the police as a reliable witness. I doubt he'll be gone more than 6 days, 7 nights. Okay, I'm done. Random hearts. Damn it! If Indy is wanted for questioning about the murders that took place at Hunter College, then how is he even able to fly anywhere? Wouldn't notifying the airlines be one of the first courses of action the police would take?
Give 'em hell, Indiana Jones!
Shouting the name of a murder suspect in public.
Archimedes discovered a temporal meteorology.
Gibberish called, and it would like its native language back, or at least acknowledged.
If I give you this, it must be destroyed.
I will.
He will not. Why the f*** were you, up until just before landing in Tangier, flying with this thing visible in your open bag to any passersby? It's been nearly an hour, and this movie is just starting. Holy shit, every major character in this movie is converging right here and now, and there's still an hour and a half left to go. Just like Pirates of the Caribbean, the one with Chow Yun-fat. That means there's a good chance of this film containing either an ocean tornado or a Keith Richards appearance.
It's not yours. You stole it.
Then you stole it.
And then I stole it. It's called capitalism.
Capitalism. See, this is the kind of scene I was sort of hoping we wouldn't have in this movie, where we wink really hard at one of the OG films, but we tweak it a bit and assume it equals creativity.
Then he handed me this scimitar and told me to call home with your head.
I feel like an axe would have been a better option if you want to take a head off cleanly, but you do you, Raheem.
I presume you sold the ring?
It didn't go for as much as I thought it would.
Being this much of a smartass with a guy holding a scimitar he already threatened to take your head off with once. No one will be seated while all the gunmen fire with terrible aim at our protagonists in the hall of dangling onions, or possibly it's garlic. What in the hell caused him to think, I'd better look up, back, and to the left right now?
Go faster!
But they shouldn't need to. They are in an actual fucking car. How is this car chase this close? Choosing this moment to crank up the main Indiana Jones theme. These bad guys and their machine guns that hit nothing important. It's one of the oldest tropes in the book, and I no longer feel escalated tension from it. I just feel bloat and convenience and the effect of 4 writers on this script.
What are you doing? Getting what's mine.
It's not yours, though. It belongs in a museum. While the sheer length of the car chase may be impressive, that doesn't mean the scene itself will be enjoyable to viewers. Acting like this fucking vehicle can make e-brake turns. Indiana Jones and the recycled 40s comedy stylings.
I mean, what even is a Godfather?
A 1972 Best Picture winner, an okay at best pizza franchise, the father of a am I getting close? Ah, yeah, that's right. Hannibal made off with the dial, or half of it at least. Honestly, can't keep up.
We have half the dial now.
Thing I said to my wife after taking a shower last week somehow enters the script.
My name is Follow.
We already knew you were lying about your identity, so this whammy is literally only for the character, who is fictional and does not care one way or the other since she's about to be dead.
The location of the graphicos?
Nobody knows where the Graphicos is.
Dad did.
Honestly, as a viewer, I thought this Graphicos thing was literally the same as the dial. I thought they were interchangeable. And I'm not stupid or something. The movie just kept mentioning them together and it took hold. Whether electronic or gas, how the f does this 3-wheeled golf cart thing still have power?
Pick a card, Dr. Jones.
Card tricks or movie has time for this? Pick one. I choose both.
I don't believe in magic, Wombat.
You fucking saw aliens rise up out of ancient native ruins, bro, and saved your father's life with holy water from the Holy Grail. You absolutely believe in magic.
What if you could go back in time? What would you do?
Is it Skip? I hope it's Skip. Chekhov's dynamite thanks you for rummaging through this drawer.
They look like snakes.
No, they don't.
Why did it have to be a callback to snakes? Drinking and diving.
I can't swim.
Thinking that diving requires swimming.
Reach and pull. Reach and pull.
My college girlfriend's handjob technique laid bare to the entire world. This diving sequence underwater's on for all of some time. Luffy expects me to believe that they could swim through these tight spaces without already getting the lines caught on something, and I do not believe you, movie. I'll be honest. Everything since Indy went underwater has been super blurry visually, and I have no fucking clue what is happening right now.
I should have retired you when I had the chance.
To be fair, you rightfully thought you had, and that 100% should have been the case. This motherfucker should not be alive.
No!
This punch would break this old man's face into tiny little pieces. That is a human being the size of 2 human beings that just punched him. Indy is dead.
Come on, Indy. Everyone knows this. Even this clown.
Being condescending to the guy you just went into a business arrangement with and had already been paid more than you asked for in the first place. Indy picks up the metal disc 3 seconds after it was exposed by a raging fire burning the wax around it. That should burn the out of his hands. Everything Indy was talking about in his lesson at the beginning of the movie has tied into his present-day adventure. Was this class called Exposition 101?
So he's like running the show now?
I'm still in charge, Teddy.
Pretty sure Archimedes is in charge.
Oh.
Hey.
How the f did they do this? Sure, he saw the boat go west instead of east and maybe figured Sicily, but they are waiting for this kid here, as though they knew he would A, wander away from Indy and Wombat, B, pickpocket some rich kid, C, go buy an ice cream cone with his newfound riches, and D, get distracted by a boat in his peripheral vision long enough to get himself trapped in this hallway. That's a bullshit truck carrying a load of bullshit on its way out of the bullshit factory.
Hey, hey, hey!
Indiana Jones thinks he can outrun a van, stealing a just-married vehicle.
We're not gonna hurt him.
We're gonna use it to get the other half of the dial.
Yeah, but they might hurt him after that, because they wouldn't need him anymore. And they could still torture him to find out the info he has, so not feeling great about Teddy's future at this moment. Movie absolutely yada yadas these two sneaking away from guests and rangers at a national park type place to go investigate a cave. Baba Diba-ing your way into finding treasure.
You haven't been forced to drink the blood of Kali.
No, fair enough.
Or been tortured with voodoo.
Putting on the hits. How the f did these fools get off the boat in the middle of the Aegean Sea that had dynamite detonated in its lower chamber?
Nobody memorizes every page of their dead father's notebooks. For the money.
Assuming you know how someone deals with their own grief.
They went that way.
This fucking guy is a better tracker than a bloodhound. Fucking centipedes and spiders. Didn't they do bugs in Temple of Doom? Why did it have to be centipedes and spiders? Why did it have to be anything? Can we go one goddamn Indiana Jones film without a fucking creepy crawly scene?
Archimedes was fascinated by water displacement.
Being fascinated by water displacement. Most people aren't aware that Archimedes created the world's first slip and slide.
Don't need to do that.
You really don't, and I don't understand why anyone would ever handcuff themselves to someone else. Maybe it limits the prisoner's ability to escape, but it also limits your abilities because now you can only use one arm. How is that helpful to anyone?
Leave them.
Your shack-sized henchman and the kid that knows the way, and you're just leave them. Why did you bring them down here in the first place if they were that expendable? I appreciate that the light is coming through tiny cracks and Archimedes set this up so the light would hit the mirrors and leave a path, but that was ages ago. Earth's crust and plates and shit. That all moves. Cracks letting in light wouldn't be guaranteed to be in the same place even 50 years later, let alone a couple thousand. Indy just pulls out the dial piece as though he's never experienced booby traps before.
Of course it works, Miss Shaw. Mathematics works.
I mean, just because math works doesn't mean that time travel works. And I don't care after the Ark of the Covenant melting Nazi faces and Indy surviving his heart being pulled out of his chest that one of these movies would involve time travel. But don't yada yada over how it works. That's part of the fun of time travel movies. Oh, he's doing this right now. He's putting the pieces together in an attempt to travel through time, and he's doing it right now in front of his foes and way underground in a cave. This is a movie decision because a real-life evil guy would have the sense to bring that shit back up to the surface before f***ing with it. Kid jumps and a whole bunch of indiscernible shit happens. I don't like it. Off with your maybe Dr. Jones will die bullshit. We know he's not gonna die. Every goddamn one of us watching this movie knows he's not gonna die. So stop playing these f***ing games with us. It's not necessary and it's not welcome.
What kind of Nazi kills a Führer?
It's interesting to have the age-old question of, if you could go back in time, would you kill Hitler, attempted in a movie? And then it's also interesting to change that around to where a Nazi is the one that's going to kill Hitler. It's still really stupid, but definitely interesting.
Hey, think you could fly one of those?
Why the f*** would he? He's a kid. He picks pockets with you. He's a great thief in the right places, but what the hell makes you think he can just suddenly fly airplanes?
In Nord? Sure.
It's not a ringing response.
Well, I haven't flown in Nord.
You've never flown any plane.
Then why the f*** did you ask him if he could fly that one? Why are they keeping him alive again? They have both pieces of the dial. They don't need him anymore, even though I'll admit the movie certainly does. For someone who has never flown a plane, I find it a little bullshitty that he could hotwire a plane.
Archimedes didn't know about continental drift.
But getting your calculations f***ed over because of continental drift, Indy again survives a pretty massive punch to the face. How is this guy just now waking up to figure this out? It's not like Teddy has been quiet this whole time.
Those are Roman triremes.
Knowing your Roman triremes so well, you can spot them from this distance.
Keep it in the air!
Unfollowable orders.
Sorry, pal, but you're a Nazi!
Sorry, pal, but I actually don't have anything. I just hated that dialogue. How are they just now losing altitude? This poor fucking guy who has not spent the last few days with knowledge in his head that it's very possible time travel is real, and then to wake up in a different millennium? I'm very concerned about this random character's mental well-being after all this. You know, taking a wash off a dead body is still stealing, yeah?
We're witnessing history.
I mean, technically we're witnessing history every day. Maybe not battles that ended in thousands of lives lost and cities ruined, but for instance, those 6 cheese crystals I scarfed down yesterday happened, and that is history my stomach witnessed. Believing that history and future history are unchangeable. Wait, what? Bookending Indy's present-day portion of the film with dirty laundry. Don Henley would be so proud. Marion is back, and she brought home groceries. And I'm not sure how much I trust these writers to deliver a Marion that does more than bring home groceries.
Are you back, Indy?
God damn it, he has been back this whole fucking movie.
You can never have too much ice cream, can you?
You absolutely can't. I'm glad Indy is back together with Marion. After all, their relationship is really the through line for all the Indy movies. Sorry, I couldn't get through that. This moves me not. They washed the goddamn hat?
God, I'm bored. You look bored. I am bored.
Oh, who am I kidding? The boathouse was the time.
You hear that, boys? If we don't knock out that airfield, they'll go after Enterprise.
Prepare to make the jump to light speed.
Wiped clean by the wrath of God.
Erased from existence. Maybe we should travel by map.
Soon they will come to arm you, and I will not be able to stop them.
Tommy, how's it peeping? Tommy, how's it peeping?
I'm putting in a chase sequence. So the killer flees on horseback with the girl, the cops after them on a motorcycle. And it's like a battle between motors and horses, like technology versus horse.
The driving. How does he reach the pedals?
Your persistence surprises even me. You're gonna give mercenaries a bad name.
I swallowed a bug.
The world watched in amazement as he unlocked the mysteries of Al Capone's glove compartment.
Aha! Road maps! I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
I feel terrible.
What's that?
Antidote.
To what?
The poison you just drank up.
We are laughing.
Sorry, thought you're making a move.
Monkey's brains, though popular in Cantonese cuisine, are not often to be found in Washington, D.C.
Oh my god. Oh my god!
But I corrected them, sir. And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her.
We use a large vibrating egg.
You will, Dr. Jones.
You will be.
I feel terrible.
It's not that kind of duty.
So the killer flees on horseback with the girl, the cops after them on a motorcycle, and it's like a battle between motors and horses, like technology versus horse.
Left Budapest early this morning. The impression I had was that we were leaving the West and entering the East.
Do you intend to leave us standing on the doorstep all day with drenched?
There'll be whales here.
Oh, what? I dropped the thing! Drop the thing!
Can't you remember? I found a cure for the plague of the 20th century, and now I've lost it.
Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the mall. That's the Chicago way.
Now they have the back. And in this sort of race,
Winners go home and the prom queen.
I have to go now as someone is staring at me through binoculars.
Meet Flower. She's the leader of a 29-strong family of meerkats.
Are you suggesting that I killed my wife? You saying that I crushed her skull and that I shot her?
when I came home, there was a man in my house. I fought with this man. You find this man. You find this man.
I passed the test.
And we were threatened with treason if we ever talked about it. So you tell me, what was in the box?
What's in the f***ing box?
You want a player who doesn't have the guts to fight back? No, I want a player who's got the guts not to fight back.
They're thieves. They're thieves. They're filthy little thieves.
What happened? Where'd he go? Y'all get a Peter Pan right here off of this dam, right here.
Please raise your hands if you would trade 5 years of your life for the so-called perfect body.
We happy?
Yeah, we happy. I am not a recording, Fräulein.
This way, come on!
I can't do that!
All I want is to fight on the top of a train! Is that too much to ask?
I assigned pages 131 through 171 in Winford for today. Anybody do the reading?
Anyone? Anyone? The Great Depression. Past the... Anyone? Anyone?
How are you acquainted with Miss Shaw?
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
Give him hell, Indiana Jones!
Man, I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
Now you believe the dial has magical powers?
It's all true.